Hey guys, so yeah, this is a video analysis of a accident I had in Tenerife doing wingovers. I had to throw the reserve because of a cravated spiral I got into and I couldn't get out of it, and then the reserve got stuck in the chute, and luckily I got to survive anyway. But this was a near-death experience for me, and it was I was quite lucky. And so I chose to nerd off on it and learn from it, and hopefully you can too, and hopefully we can fly a lot safer in the future. Tenerife is in Spain on the Canary Islands, and it's a very tall plateau of mountains and a huge volcano, and so it creates this lee bubble on one side of the mountain where there's lee thermals, and it's really nice to fly. You've got like a cool landscape, and you've got beaches. You can surf and you can kite surf, and there's nice like tourism places. So it's in total it's a really fun place to be. A lot of paragliders as well that go there, and really just a very cool place. Yeah, let's look at the video and see on a superficial level what was going on. So I don't pressurize the wingovers enough so it collapses, and that's how the cravat gets to be. I get into the spiral, and then later on the auto rotation, and so I can't release it, so I throw the reserve because I see that I'm like very low already. And the reserve does solve the problem, but not by opening up, but rather by releasing the cravat. You can see that when I turn the camera upwards, the reserve is still stuck in the glider, and it's slowly opening up. That's why I'm going down a little faster than normal glide. And then I land in a really crappy place, which is like a rocky cactus situation. But the only thing that happened to me is that I got some burn marks on my neck from the lines, and also some scratches on my knee, basically, and that's it. And I should have died, and you know, I was very lucky. When I threw the reserve, I thought I was quite low, and looking at the flight log, it was about time to throw the reserve. I had sunken in the spiral from 280 meters to about 100 meters, and had a velocity of 9 meters a second going down. So I had about 7 to 10 seconds till impact. So yes, it was time to throw the reserve. There is a detailed graph here. You might want to freeze this frame in high resolution if you're interested. But here's what to learn. So when you're doing wingovers, keep the wing always pressurized. You can see me grabbing the risers because I just freaked out. I never had gotten this high in a wingover. The right thing to do would have been to bury the brakes, but instead I grabbed the risers. And so it's a really bad habit to grab the risers ever. So don't do it. Try to get rid of that habit. I guess a good tip is to not go farther than your mind can handle, or not do it in an unsafe environment. This is unsafe here because I'm over rugged terrain. I could have thrown the reserve and landed in cables, buildings, or against a rock. I was lucky that the reserve didn't open, actually. My reserve is an Evo Cross, and it always drifts to one side, and you cannot choose where it goes. Practice with enough height. You need at least 300 meters to safely practice wingovers. Also, experts have died showing off near the mountains or near a hill, and then they had some sort of cock up, and then they crashed and died. Statistically, based on the German numbers in 2016, if you fly 30 years, there's a 1% chance that you'll die paragliding. There's a 10% chance that you'll break something. And so I think you can largely influence that statistic by taking smart decisions on where to fly and what to practice where. And think about it. If you fly longer, like till you're 80 and not die, you'll be a much better pilot than if you take too many risks and die in 5 years. Should you get a cravat anyway, then your priority is to not let it develop a spiral dive. And you do this by counter weight shifting to the left and applying a little bit of left brake so as not to stall the glider. But so you shouldn't let it turn at all. And if you're gonna let it turn, then throw the reserve within the spiral, but not when it has already turned into an auto rotation. The point where it turns into an auto rotation here is when the right side of the glider hoists up from being perfectly horizontal in a spiral. It hoists up and becomes a auto rotation. And the problem with this is that if you throw the reserve within an auto rotation, it's guaranteed to get stuck in the glider. And the reason is because your center of rotation is now in between the glider and the pilot. And so the pilot is moving backward. And if you throw the reserve, it will move in between towards the center of rotation. So it will have that tendency to move towards the glider. And I'm actually a second or two too late throwing it. So a spiral is still okay to throw the reserve, but being out of the spiral is obviously better. And it's also better to stall the wing by accident, at least. Then you can also throw the reserve. And it's much safer to land doing a full stall than doing a spiral. If I had to choose, I would prefer to land normally. After that, I would prefer to land with the reserve. After that, I would prefer to land doing a full stall, because you're going down vertically 10 meters a second. You can still survive that. But in a auto rotation or in a spiral, you're not only descending 10 to 20 meters vertically, you also have a rotation around the axis. So you're hitting the ground with a lot of speed, maybe like 100 kilometers an hour or so. So that's a guaranteed death if you hit the ground like that. Even if you hit water, you have no chance of surviving that. So in short, really bad mistakes were made doing the wingovers, and then obviously not controlling the cravat so as to prevent the spiral, and then throwing the reserve too late. On the other hand, throwing the reserve did save my butt, and throwing it hard, especially because it reached the upper side of the glider with a little force, and also the footwork on the ground was quite good to catch my fall and not to break anything. Okay, so that's all I got, and I want to thank Tim Diggins for putting a lot of thought into this, giving me a lot of advice, a very good analysis from him, and Lucas Vara and Henry Wildner for their good input. So I hope this keeps us alive a little longer, and happy flying!